Hi there, and good day, whether it's morning or evening that you're looking to learn a little bit more about exercise. So, I welcome all of you as we dive in to the ins and outs. Today will be a general broad overview, and then over some future lessons, we'll take some really deep dives into some of the specifics about exercise. So, first off, what is exercise? Because there is physical activity, which is moving around with intention, but that physical activity can be anything from gardening to shoveling to rowing or riding your bike. So these are all different types of movement that we do. Specifically, exercise is that type of physical effort that is structured and planned. And the overall goal is to either sustain or improve your health and fitness. So these are things that we commonly think about: running, swimming, strength training, Pilates, rowing, dancing, all of those things. Why do we do it? Well, for some of us, we have a goal to improve their strength, flexibility, our endurance. Some of us may be thinking longer term and wanting to promote our own longevity and reduce the risk of chronic diseases. For others, it's getting a boost in our mood. We have heard about the endorphins released with types of exercise, and that is definitely one of those. To have fun, some of the activities that you do, any activity that you do, I would say we want to have as much fun as we can. And we can use it for a time to get out in our community, to be social, taking classes together, and doing things with friends. What are the biggest benefits overall of exercise? In general, we're going to have stronger muscles. We're going to have better health for our heart. We're going to be able to maintain our weight or even lose or gain, depending on what our goals are. But overall, reducing stress. So exercise is an acute stress. It's an acute influence on the system, but that over long term is going to help reduce your overall stress. It improves sleep, and of course, lowers those risks of those chronic diseases like heart disease and diabetes. So there's many different types of exercise. And my belief strongly is that we want to do things that we enjoy. So cardiovascular exercise is also known as aerobic or endurance exercise. So these are your running, your biking, your rowing. Those are your cardio type workouts. Strength training is where we use any sort of resistance to help build stronger muscles. And so that may be in a gym lifting a barbell, that may be with resistance bands. The goal being, again, that you're putting your muscles through a type of work that's going to help to strengthen them and make them larger. Mobility and flexibility. So there's our yoga, there's our stretching, also very important. And balance and coordination. These are things we may not think about as a specific type of exercise, but is actually essential to our lifelong health. So Tai Chi, Qigong, Pilates, these are all things that are going to help improve our balance, our coordination, our core strength. So cardiovascular exercise. This is something that's going to have multiple influences throughout the body. So for our heart and our lungs, it's going to help improve our blood pressure in the long term, and it's going to improve something called VO2 max. VO2 max is a measurement that we use in the exercise world as a gauge of your aerobic capacity, how well you can do these types of endurance pieces. And it's been studied as a signal of longevity. So the higher your VO2 max, which is by definition your body's ability to consume oxygen, and it's an efficiency process essentially. The higher that is, the better overall your chances of living a longer life are based on the current research. So that's pretty cool. Metabolism boost. We always hear about this metabolism thing in our body, and cardiovascular exercise helps to improve our mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of our cell. They are the makers of the energy within our cell. So when we are feeling fatigued, our mitochondria are not really keeping up, and for any number of reasons. And so cardiovascular exercise is a way to improve those mitochondria, both in number and efficiency. And metabolism, of course, is in part is how many calories you burn at both baseline and through your activities. And cardiovascular exercise is one of those activities that increases total body calorie burn. Now, the caveat on that is as we're learning, we may not be burning as many calories as like our watches tell us, our Apple watches. It may be that our body is actually able to conserve a little bit more. So just to put that little caveat out there, still overall cardiovascular exercise does increase the number of calories that you are burning. And therefore you potentially need to eat some more fuel to do these exercises. Our brain, cardiovascular exercise is so good for our brain because it's going to improve the blood flow to it. And by more blood, that means we bring more nutrients in. And that's going to help all of the different neurons within your brain function at a higher capacity. It's also going to increase this thing called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And so that's going to lead to better memory and improved cognitive function. On the hormone side of things, overall cardiovascular exercise is going to help lower our cortisol. So cortisol gets a kind of a bad rap out there in the social media world nowadays. Cortisol is really important. It is the fight or flight chemical, that hormone that gets released from our brain and tells different systems in our body to get ready for a war because there is something coming. And so if you have a bear jump out at you, that cortisol is going to go through the roof. And it's going to set off a series of things. But long term, that is not what we want. We don't want a constant increase in that cortisol, which seems to happen with the chronic stressors that we're experiencing in today's world. And so overall, our goal is to reduce that cortisol to keep it in a nice, healthy level long term. And of course, I mentioned the endorphins before. Those endorphins, they really give us a boost, and those are within the hormone family, and they help us feel good. So you hit that run and may feel a little sluggish during it, but afterwards you're like, oh, okay, all right, now I'm feeling it. And so that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece of it. And then disease prevention, of course, long term. What are these effects? What are we doing this for, right? And so we can improve our insulin resistance and lower our cholesterol through cardiovascular exercise, which in turn is going to lower our heart disease risk, lower the risk of high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, strokes, you name it, are going to all improve. So now we'll switch paths here. Resistance training exercise. So this may also known as strength training. This is where we are going to, with the aim, either maintaining or building muscle. And muscle is one of the most metabolically active tissues in our body. And so we do resistance training with different goals. Muscle growth is hypertrophy. So that's physically the little cells of the muscle are getting larger, which overall is going to improve larger muscles. For the ladies out there, I want to put a little star out here, an asterisk. This does not mean getting bulky. Bulky is something that's really hard to do for women unless there is some sort of genetic predisposition, which even then is still going to be limited. You would have to spend many, 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 many hours in a gym to get to the point of true bulk. But muscle is essential for our long-term health, and we'll definitely do a long-term or a big deep dive into this in future sessions. But muscle is, as I said, is essential for our overall health. If you think about how active you want to be when you are 99 years old, when you're 101, how active do you want to be? Do you want to be in a nursing home with someone else doing everything to take care of you and not able to get up and go to the bathroom? Or do you want to be at home, being able to bring in your own groceries, going out into your garden, doing things outside, doing things in your house without any assistance? If that's your goal, then you're going to need muscle now before you get there because we do start to lose it over time. So with resistance training, we can build that muscle, and that's hypertrophy, hyper meaning larger growth. Resistance training is also going to affect our bone health. So it actually increases bone mineral density, and that is because there's a pulling on the bone by the muscle. So they're connected through tendons, and that pulling tells the little cells within the bone that, hey, we need to be better prepared next time. We really felt that. And so they actually increase the amount of bone deposited, and overall increases the strength of that bone, increases the density of it, which long term is going to reduce your osteoporosis risk, which is a risk for both men and women. And what's very important about that too is that even if you are, later in life and you're at that point where someone has said to you, I'm worried about your bone density, you can still build bone, and that is through strength training. So that's really encouraging too. Metabolism. So cardiovascular exercise, great for metabolism, but actually even better is strength training because, as I said, muscle is so metabolically active. Muscle doesn't need insulin to pull up glucose from the blood. It's very, very, very selfish, and it will pull that glucose right out. So you're going to be able to metabolize things a lot faster. So overall, the more lean muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is going to be, which increases your total calorie burn. Hormonally, we see increases in testosterone and growth hormone, and that's applicable to both men and women. We do have testosterone as women, ladies, and it is an important and essential one for maintaining healthy muscle. Growth hormone is important for all of us, and it's going to support that muscle maintenance and our body's ability to metabolize fat. So keys there. Blood sugar regulation. As I said, muscle takes up that glucose and doesn't need that insulin to do it. So this is a big key in helping to fight insulin resistance, which is the early cause of diabetes. And then our brain also benefits from resistance training exercise. It similarly increases that BDNF production that I mentioned earlier, improves mood, and there's studies that show that it lowers anxiety. So it's not just cardiovascular stuff that benefits the brain, resistance training does too. And let me tell you, if you haven't been in a gym yet and you haven't picked up some weights and done something that's really heavy for you, and then walked out of there and been like, I did that. It is a true accomplishment, and you give yourself that sense of accomplishment. And if you can lift that heavy stuff, you can do anything. Oh, and all right, so flexibility and mobility. So I mentioned yoga earlier as one of the great ones. What is this going to provide for us overall? Well, muscle and joint health is a big one. We're going to improve our range of motion, and that is going to reduce our injury risk. We also are going to enhance blood flow to the muscles and improve our circulation. This is going to be really important for aiding recovery and muscle soreness. So you hear about doing some flexibility, stretching, some mobility type exercises after you exercise. And again, that's to help with that recovery and reducing that risk of soreness after a workout. Our nervous system also is going to perceive this as a benefit, and it's going to help in that reducing of stress. It's going to promote relaxation. So doing these exercises, these types of exercises just before bed can actually help promote sleep versus, say, I don't recommend doing some intervals on the bike just before bed because that'll be kind of the opposite. Posture. So in today's society, everybody's hunched over looking at their phones or they're on their computers, and we're not standing up straight anymore. And so doing the mobility and flexibility type exercises can help improve that overall posture so that we're not hunched over as we age and affecting everything else top to bottom. So it's going to counteract those and improve the imbalances that start to appear. And then balance and coordination. So our proprioception, which is essentially our body awareness of where we are in space, is really important for our day-to-day activities. Think about when you go reach down to pick something up. When you do that, you have a particular balance so that you don't fall over as you're doing it. And that takes engagement of all these tiny little small muscles in our core, and also the coordination of our nervous system. Our cerebellum is sending signals to be able to do that. And so the more you practice this now, the better you're going to be able to do this when you're 101. And also with that strength of your core and your lower body, you're going to have better stability, and this is going to reduce your risk of falling. Falling is one of the greatest contributors to what's called morbidity or injury type occurrences as we age, is we lack the balance and coordination, we fall over, we get injured, we break a bone like a hip, which is going to put us up and out of commission for a very, very long time. And as we age, that actually increases our risk of dying. So if we can do stuff now to improve our balance and coordination, all the better. And then cognitively, in our brain, improving that connection between a nerve and a muscle, that communication there is going to enhance how well your body reacts to things. So your ability to pull your hand off that hot stove is going to be maintained. And you're also going to have movement efficiency. You're not just kind of wobbling around, wasting energy because you can't coordinate yourself. So that's really important. And core strength, which goes into some of these other ones that we've been talking about, but core strength is strengthening those deep stabilizer muscles within your core, which your core is not just those abs. Everybody talks about the abs, but it is the full trunk. And it also extending pretty much from your knees to your shoulders. All of those muscles in between are really important for total core strength and everything that you do around that. So we talked about this exercise stuff. How much, how often, how hard? Well, with cardiovascular exercise, the current recommendations are a minimum of 150 minutes per week, which is about 30 minutes 5 times a week, or 75 minutes of rigorous exercise. So that first 150 minutes, that's moderate, which we'll go into, and that or 75 of vigorous. If we are aiming to go beyond maintenance, say perhaps we have some weight loss goals, we may need to inch up those recommendations closer to 300 minutes, depending on what our overall goals are. And if you are aiming for endurance events, whether that's a triathlon or a century bike ride or a super, super long hike, you are going to want to have that higher total volume, closer to that 300 minutes, perhaps. Overall, we want to have a mix of these intensities, this vigorous and this moderate. The endurance goals, we're probably going to spend more time in that moderate. You're not going to be able to do 300 minutes of vigorous activity, and I don't recommend it. It's not necessary. But the nice thing about that vigorous stuff is that you are short on time. You're going to be able to do it in fewer sessions versus, hey, I have tons of time on my hand. I can do more moderate stuff. So that moderate level is you can talk, but you can't sing. And this is something that's often referred to as zone 2. This is about 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. And this is a time when, if you're, say, running and someone calls you, if you're in true zone 2, they'll know you're doing something on the other end of the phone, but you're still able to have a conversation with them. So it's a little forced, but you're still able to hold it. Oftentimes our heart rates are going to be moderately elevated, but not high. And it's something you could theoretically do for hours on end. I'm not asking you to, but you could. So that's moderate intensity. High intensity, also known as high intensity interval training or HIIT or SIT, which is sprint interval training, that is going to be going up, really hitting those maxes. You're going to be at 9 to 10 out of a 10 effort, AKA all out. Most often, these are things that you are not going to be able to sustain for more than 30 to 60 seconds, depending on how high that intensity truly is. And so usually we're doing them as intervals. So an example for HIIT is usually equal parts rest and activity. So 30 seconds of hard running, 30 seconds of either stopped or more likely walking, easy, 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 and repeat that, maybe 10 times, maybe 20 times, depending on how trained you already are. Sprint interval training is a little bit different where there's a greater rest period. So you're going hard, 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 10 out of 10 for 15, 30 seconds. And then you're resting, 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 resting for 2 minutes, 3 minutes even, as much as time as you need to recover heart rate all the way back down at your baseline. And then you repeat that. And that sprint interval training is going to be truly hitting the highest speeds that you're going to be capable of, versus HIIT, where because it's equal parts rest and recovery, you're never going to hit quite that same high speed overall. Another one I don't have on here that you hear a lot more about today is the VO2 max training. So it's been studied that these types of intervals can help improve your VO2 max, but if you want to dedicate time to that VO2 max, you have to do longer intervals of the HIIT style. So you're looking at 4 minutes of activity, 4 minutes of super easy, 4 minutes of activity, 4 minutes of super easy. You're going to do a total of 4 sets of that higher intensity. And so if you're on the bike, you're going 4 minutes at a fairly hard pace. It's not going to be your all out because it's 4 minutes. You're going to be able to do 4 minutes all out, but you're going to do it with pretty good intensity. And then 4 minutes of pretty easy, super, super, bring your heart rate down, breathing comes down, talking in full sentences, just nice and nice, easy, and then repeat. Total of 4 times. And so that's VO2 max training. If you've heard about that, that is something you can do. I don't recommend doing it more than once or twice a week because it is a very, very, very hard workout that's going to take a lot out of you. So for strength training, ideally 2 to 3 days a week. If you want to go more, fantastic. But you don't have to. You can gain the benefits with as little as 2 days per week. You want to incorporate both upper and lower body exercises. If your goal is that hypertrophy, that muscle growth, you're going to be in that 5 to 20 repetitions. So a number of times you're doing, your bicep curl or your squats or your lunges. If you're aiming for strength, these are going to be much lower types of repetitions and with much more rest in between because strength is a very different type of goal than just hypertrophy. And I highly recommend working with a trainer or at least talking to one of your clinicians here at Tegrity about diving into these because they should definitely be done with some thought in overall get the best benefit out of it. For flexibility and mobility, you can do a couple minutes every day, make it a morning or an evening routine, and that's going to set you up for overall better mobility and flexibility. Or you could do a couple of dedicated sessions throughout the week, and that applies to the balance and coordination. And in fact, you can sprinkle this in throughout your day. For example, if you are reaching down to put your shoes on. Well, hey, let's test that out. Let's do it with one leg only. Reach down, hook up that shoe, put it on the one that is raised, and then be able to step down. I realize you can't see my foot as I did that, but the concept is there. And so you can sprinkle those types of things, challenging yourself throughout the day. You don't have to have a dedicated session, and that's also going to get you there. Something that's not included in all this is jumping, plyometrics. I highly recommend everybody do some form of jumping, whether it's even just one day where you do some dedicated stuff or you do 10 to 20 jumps during the day. And that can be little jumps, that can be big jumps, depending on your capacity. But that jumping piece of things is going to fit right in line with the balance, the flexibility, mobility, and building muscle strength around those joints. And it's going to have long-term positive benefits on our bone density. So how do we start? Well, we want to find activities that you like. That's really important. If you don't enjoy running, but you enjoy going out on a bike or you enjoy hiking, pick the thing that's really important to you. Sometimes we got to scatter in just to get some more in. For example, I can't hike every day of the week. I would love to. If they would let me, I would totally would. but I can't. So I do intersperse that with some biking time. And that helps me keep that cardiovascular effort up during the week. Training, if you're new to strength training, I do highly recommend getting a trainer just to help you work through those exercises for the first couple of sessions. If you need some guidance, there's definitely a lot of programs out there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have a couple of ones that I've personally vetted and I think are fantastic programs for men and women alike. And YouTube's also a great place, look for the free yoga, the free Tai Chi, Qigong sessions that you can easily pop on and get done in a day. Pull your friend out and go to a class together, whether that is a dancing class or a boot camp or you name it. Go do something fun together. And don't forget us, Integrity. Talk to your clinicians, talk to your team. We are here. We want to help so that you can get these foundations in. So I look forward to your questions. Don't hesitate, send us some in. Also, if you have ideas about what you would like done for future sessions, please don't hesitate. It's been great chatting with all of you today, and I'll see you all on the next one.